Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of Loki Season 1, Episode 6, the Season 1 finale for all time, always. This is the episode that introduces us to the man behind the curtain and really sets up the events that Season 2 picks up directly. We are rewatching the episodes of Season 1 to put us in the best possible mindset for Season 2, and this episode right here is the most critical episode to rewatch as we do that. We found even more details and Easter eggs, so let's go back through it scene by scene to figure out what He Remains' true plan really is. Okay, this episode starts with a buttload of stuff. Let's go through it all. Over the Marvel Studios opening, we actually hear the music of It's Been a Long, Long Time. That's Harry James and Helen Forrest's song that initially played in Captain America the Winter Soldier and then came back in the final scene of Avengers Endgame. Then we get a ton of other lines and sounds from MCU past as they jumble together and then mix with real world quotes, all overlapping in chaos as we are hearing all of the timelines in the multiverse converging at once. Okay, first we hear Iron Man's repulsor. Sam Wilson as Falcon congratulating Ant-Man during Civil War.
Way to go, Tic Tac! Way to go, Tic Tac!
Hope Van Dyne's line to Scott and Ant-Man.
That's how you punch. That's how you punch.
Hulk roaring. T'Challa's salute in Black Panther.
Wakanda forever! Wakanda forever!
Spider-Man's web shooter. Scott meeting Falcon and Ant-Man.
Now you wouldn't have heard of me. Now you wouldn't have heard of me.
Natasha talking to Coulson in Avengers.
Let me put you on hold. Let me put you on hold.
Peter Quill in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Dance off, bro. Dance off, bro. Me and you.
Thor in Ragnarok.
He's a friend from work. He's a friend from work.
Cap versus Cap in Endgame during the time heist.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Mjolnir reverting to Cap in Endgame. Younger Hank Pym and Ant-Man.
I'll show you ferocity, and I'll show you ferocity.
Carol Danvers and Captain Marvel.
Higher, further, faster, baby. Higher, further, faster, baby. That's right.
Loki to Thanos in Infinity War.
We have a Hulk. We have a Hulk.
Korg to Loki in Ragnarok.
We're gonna jump on that spaceship and get out of here. You wanna come?
Bucky?
We're about to jump on that ginormous spaceship. You wanna come?
Bucky in Winter Soldier.
Out of here. You wanna come?
Who the hell is Bucky?
Quill planning in Guardians.
I have part of a plan.
Natasha to Loki in Avengers.
I got red in my ledger. I'd like to wipe it out.
Doctor Strange to Dormammu.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
Vision to Ultron.
I was born yesterday.
Hulk to Loki in Avengers.
Puny God. Puny God.
Thor to the Shield Brute in Thor.
Fort bigger. You're big. Fort bigger.
Fury's speech in Avengers.
There was an idea. Stark knows this.
Hawkeye's speech to Wanda in Ultron.
You are an Avenger.
Loki's final words in Infinity War. Banner's big line in Avengers.
I'm always angry. That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry.
Hank Pym and Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Time is the true enemy.
You sent my suit through the mail?
And Caecilius to Doctor Strange.
Time is the true enemy of us all. Time is the true enemy of us all. Time kills everything.
Okay, next we hear a baby crying.
Of us all.
We think time as a one.
This one is a crazy pull. That's the sound of baby Loki crying in the flashback of Odin taking him as a frost giant ward in the first Thor film. Okay, we pull out from our solar system and we hear a lecture from philosopher Alan Watts called Time and the More It Changes.
We think time as a one-way movie.
Watts argued that time is not the past causing events in the future, but in truth, a concept we perceive from the present, similar to the nonlinear way that He Who Remains perceives time. Okay, zooming out from the galaxy, we hear Neil Armstrong's first words when he stepped on the moon. Meanwhile, this mysterious ship soars past us. This is actually the ship of Tanelier Tavan the Collector. We saw this blue and gold ship behind Thanos and Gamora on Nowhere in Avengers Infinity War. Then we hear the voice of climate activist Greta Thunberg.
How dare they?
As all of the galaxies, our known universe appears to be contained within this blue sphere, which condenses and then explodes. We may be seeing the moment of the Big Bang, which is just interesting that this would be be the moment the universe begins because it also appears to be the moment the universe ends. In the end is the beginning. Time is a flat circle. Next, we hear the voice of activist Malala Yousafzai.
My dream.
And then the voice of Nelson Mandela.
We have fought for the right to experience peace.
And then we hear the music of Tchaikovsky from Swan Lake. That is a story that represents the battle between light and dark. This is followed by the song Swag Saha Nahi Jay from the 2018 Bollywood film Happy Peer Bag Jayegi. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of these things. It's sung by Shadab Faridi, Sohail Sen, and Neha Basin. Then we hear Nina Simone's I Put a Spell on You, and we see that everything we've been seeing has been set inside one black hole that neighbors another black hole that we now swoop down into. This whole concept of black holes actually comes back in Loki season 2 as Obi warns that entering black holes causes what's known as spaghettification, which is actually a real concept in theoretical physics in which your body would be condensed into one long strand of yourself. That's essentially what is happening to the viewer right here, right now. The music then shifts like a radio dial to Beethoven's Für Elise. All of this, an astronomical geography of the spatial relationship between universes, which He Who Remains later describes as stacked. And in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, he actually depicts more than one ring stacked on top of another. Okay, diving into the second black hole, we hear classic Loki from episode 5. And then one planet collides into another. And then as we stretch into a bifrosty 2001 Space Odyssey Stargate, we hear the first Liberian president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's 2006 speech.
Motivated by women throughout the world.
Then Vision's big line from WandaVision.
What is grief if not love persevering?
And then the poet Maya Angelou. This is actually from her poem with verses about her history being rewritten, which happens to Sylvie and Loki this episode. The final things we hear are Sylvie.
Open your eyes.
And then some Morse code beeping, which might be the 1962 Morse code message that was beamed out to space. Okay, finally, characters on screen. Loki and Sylvie approach the Citadel, which has that same Kintsugi cracked pattern as the Timekeeper statues in Renslayer's office. All of this seems to be compiled from different fragments of broken universes. We see two big hourglasses flanking the entrance. Director Kate Herron said that in the design of the Citadel, quote, I was really inspired by this idea of this kind of manor house like Sunset Boulevard or Grey Gardens. These basically big ornate houses, but there's a loneliness to them. Production designer Kazra Farhani, who directs an episode of season 2, came up with the idea to make it look like it was carved from the rock of the asteroid that it's seated upon. Sylvie takes a breath and says,
Aren't you gonna tell me not to kick the door in?
Which reminds me of the impulsive players in D&D campaigns who always want to kick the door in, Leroy Jenkinsing into every battle. Even if the party might be facing a big bad, they always have to be talked out of it by the other players. Sylvie is actually delaying here. This is the moment most of her life has led up to, and she's trying to wrap her head around it, but she's understandably hesitant. Loki and Sylvie enter a chamber with these looming hooded figures that, if you look closely, have clocks for faces. Also behind them, there is a section by the Citadel entrance that has been caved in or barricaded, suggesting that there are parts of the Citadel that even He Who Remains doesn't revisit, maybe to avoid bad memories with the person he used to live here with. Then Miss Minutes pops in to scare the shit out of us. She offers them a deal similar to the deal made to the humans in the Matrix to be reinserted into the timeline to forget any of this ever happened, or to continue on with their quest. Sylvie is offered the chance to wake up with a lifetime of happy memories. Loki has an opportunity to finally win, to beat the Avengers, to kill Thanos, to take the throne of Asgard. His fear is that the question Sylvie asked him, if a Loki is destined to lose, is true, but it's not just the chance to win that appeals to him the most.
Two Lokis in the same place.
Both of us together on the timeline.
Yeah, he wants to be in a timeline with Sylvie, so they turn her down.
It's fiction.
We write our own destiny now.
Oh, sure you do. Good luck with that.
Look at the expression on Ms. Minutes' face. She does the southern bless your heart sort of thing, but when she says good luck with that, she has a malevolent little smile, like she is hoping they would turn her down. She zips over to meet Renslayer, who comments on her lateness, so clearly she can't be in two places at once. We are learning little bits and pieces about Ms. Minutes. Ms. Minutes gives Renslayer a file that he thinks will be more useful, and Renslayer asks, who do you mean by he? It's still not clear how much Renslayer knows, how much she remembers, viewers and what her role is in all of this. Back in the Citadel, the camera spins clockwise on Loki and Sylvie, disorienting us along with them as they make their way toward the seemingly endless hallway that totally feels like the long hallway in The Wizard of Oz until they arrive at this interesting chamber. It has 3 complete timekeeper statues, but then a 4th one that's been broken into pieces. Obviously, a lot of questions remain about this 4th statue. It's probably going to be a mystery answered in a future Loki episode. We also in this room see ceiling cogs and pendulums, bells, and on the floor, a depiction of the lunar cycle, all various ways of keeping time if you think about it. There's also a Latin phrase etched on the floor, omnia tempus enim semper, which translates to for all time always. Now, longtime New Rockstars viewers know how much we use geology and how long we've been using it for, but if this is your first time hearing about geology, get ready for blockbuster quality skincare on a student film budget. Geology is a 23-time award-winning skin, hair, and body care company recognized in Men's Health, Oprah Daily, Hypebeast, Birdie, Esquire, and GQ. Geology's products are just a handful of powerful, proven ingredients that have been trusted by dermatologists for decades. Geology can help you fight acne, reduce oiliness, prevent wrinkles, combat dark or puffy under eyes, have smoother, hydrated skin, and target signs of aging. Everything you need to keep your skin healthy, no matter how much you soak in the pool this summer. Don't know where to start? Geology can create a simple and effective skincare or hair care routine for you. All you gotta do is take a quick 30-second quiz. Right now, if you use the code NewRockstars100, Geology will give you 100% off their award-winning skincare trial set. You'll also get an additional bonus offer of up to 30% off one skin, hair, or body products when you add it to your trial. It's truly a wild offer, one of the best they've ever given our audience. So click the link in the description or go to geolog.ie/rockstars100 to get started. And then we finally meet the man behind the curtain. And don't you dare try to snatch this guy's phone.
This is wild. The two of you, same person. I mean, it's a little unnatural, but wow.
Yes, Jonathan Majors. Now, he could be talking about their love for one another, because this is a guy who's had mostly contentious relationship with his variants and with other people. Seeing 2 variants connect this way is wild to him. Now, in the comics, He Who Remains was the elderly TVA caretaker in the Citadel at the end of time who built the Timekeepers, but here he is a variant of Kang the Conqueror. Kate Herron said that the costume designer Christine Wada had the idea to build his look from all different eras and different places. And in fact, like the pants he's wearing are Mongolian pants, and the first characters Loki met on the show were those Mongolians in the Gobi Desert. Basically, they wanted to make it hard to place this He Remains in any particular time, but since he's home by himself all the time, yeah, his clothes should also kind of feel like pajamas or loungewear. It's interesting here, the light in the room casts his face in this blue hue, making him look like his blue face in the comics. And what does he eat? Yep, an apple. Harkening back to the TVA quiz about Thanos eating an apple. It also reminds us of the apple that Doctor Strange used as an analog to demonstrate time slipping in the MCU. And just like Wanda did, He Remains breaks the 4th wall, because notice he looks directly at the camera and he says this.
Don't tell me I'm a disappointment.
Yeah, there was a lot of speculation at the time of exactly who Loki and Sylvie were going to find at the Citadel, so this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek way of addressing the audience's expectations directly. After Sylvie tries to kill him and he tricks her using the time twister, he laughs. This guy has been here alone by himself for multiple lifetimes, so this is probably the most fun he has had in a long time, which would explain why he was so happy to see them when those elevator doors opened. He finally has someone to drink tea with. Mobius surprises Renslayer by returning from the void, and she calls for backup, but B-15 has lured the other hunters to FDR High School in Fremont, Ohio, 2018 to show them the truth. This is where Renslayer came from, and her office has a diploma from the Ohio State with the name Rebecca Termine on it. Rebecca Termine was an alias that Renslayer used in the comics back in the early years of the 20th century when she accompanied Victor Timely in Timely, Wisconsin. And we will see some version of Renslayer in season 2, where she is in that era. You can also notice a cup full of pens on her desk, just like the one Mobius has been curious about all season. Around the school are posters for FDR as well as Eleanor Roosevelt, and there is a sign with a quote attributed to Lao Tzu: "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Back in He Remains' office, there is a chalkboard with the first part of the non-linear integration equation. This is used by quantum theorists to try to understand non-commutativity, aka whether the order of elements in a mathematical equation are interchangeable or non-linear. He also has a slew of books on his bookshelves, and considering how long he's been alone, he's probably read through them all a couple hundred times. Concept art for the scene included something that would have been crazy to actually see in live action: a helmet of Iron Man on one of these shelves, which would have been a reference to the comics when Kang kept trophies from all the Avengers that he killed. He reveals this is all scripted, and he shows them the proof. We see Sylvie listed as variant L1190. This is similar to the transcript they were shown when they first got into the TVA, except of simply everything they have said up until this point. This also includes everything they will say. He Remains mocks Loki.
Sylvie!
Don't listen to him.
Don't listen to him.
The series started with Loki mockingly mimicking Captain America.
On my way down to coordinate search and rescue. On my way down to coordinate search and rescue.
But now the tables have been completely turned. Mobius tells Renslayer that she can't take away people's free will and tries to stop her from leaving.
I'm not gonna let you go.
Please, Mobius. Even with that, you're of no danger to me.
Renslayer disarms him as he attacks her, and she could have meant that he wasn't in danger because she's a stronger fighter, but maybe she means that even if he prunes her, the Void isn't a danger because He Who Remains will protect her no matter what. She leaves through a time door in search of free will, which is interesting for her to say considering she just said that the only one who gets free will is the one in charge. So it's kind of like she's seeking for a way to be in charge. As He Who Remains sits at his desk, he is framed with his head in the middle of this spiral window behind him, the multiverse swirling outside it. The one large window with the two smaller ones above it almost looks like an angry face, designed to frighten anyone who sits on the other side of that desk. But also, just like the spiraling circle imagery, just as another reminder that time is a flat circle from He Remains' perspective. So he monologues to Loki and Sylvie about his origins and the origins of the TVA. He explains how a scientist variant in the 31st century discovered other universes stacked on top of his own. Again, what Quantumania borrowed that imagery from. The other variants discovered the same thing. For a while, they worked together using their knowledge to improve other universes, but not every variant had good intentions.
Some of us, new worlds meant only one thing: new lands to be conquered.
As he talked about how his variants turn on each other, they shift from scientists, you'll notice, to armored warriors. And the warriors wear the same helmet and have the same scar on the face that Kang ends up having in Quantumania. We likely saw some of the others he mentions in that arena at the post-credit scene of that film. He says that he created the TVA to manage the flow of time and to prevent any further branches. And he says that he alone tamed Alioth to end the multiversal war, but there's a bit of hesitancy on that, as we see in Loki season 2. He didn't do it alone, that he needed Renslayer to help him.
And that's the gambit. Stifling order or cataclysmic chaos.
Now, it's unclear if He Remains actually believes that those are the only two options, or if he's just telling these two this to see what they'll do, because this has all really been a big sales pitch from He Remains to try to set Loki and Sylvie up with this kind of timeshare at the end of time.
There's two options. One, you kill me and destroy all this, and you don't just have one devil, you have an infinite amount. Or you two run the thing.
I've gone through a lot of scenarios trying to find the right person to take this spot, and it turns out that person came in too.
Jonathan Majors actually cited Willy Wonka as an inspiration for this character, and here he ends his offer with that kind of condescending Wonka meme pose. As He Remains explains his motivation, he's tired and he's older than he looks. Majors shrouds himself in his cloak and shrinks down in his seat as the camera pulls away from him, making him look smaller and more frail in the frame. As Loki and Sylvie consider his offer, notice there is a crack in the floor that divides them in the frame, symbolizing their dueling once in this moment. Sylvie came here to kill whoever was responsible for the hell she's been living in, constantly on the run, never safe, but Loki wants to run the TVA with the person he cares for. He can finally have both love and power. They look at each other, weapons on their laps, appearing almost like a split screen image of the same person, but then He Remains' demeanor changes.
We just crossed the threshold.
This is a critically important moment. That thunder was the sound of the sacred timeline breaking, which seems to surprise even him. Maybe even the first thing that this character's been surprised by in hundreds of years. This is the moment that Sylvie definitely decides to kill him. The timeline is already being thrown into chaos even before the act is done. That tells us that the decision has already been made and that Sylvie is destined to stab He Who Remains. So did she really have free will in that moment? As He Who Remains takes the device off his wrist, he pushes it toward them and then says,
I love all this honesty. Feels like a fresh start.
Notice how he places his hand in the frame so that it looks like he is still wearing it. That would be contradicting his words, like he still might be in control. We know from Quantumania that Kang is extremely good at manipulation. He has Janet fooled in the quantum realm and would have escaped with her help had she not accidentally seen inside his mind into his past. Loki and Sylvie duel, and he remains looks on, highly entertained, like Palpatine watching people fight over him as if he's watching a little play that he is doing both the puppets of. And this is a play that he inserts himself into every chance that he can.
But maybe he was telling the truth.
Better hurry. Timeline's already branching.
Yeah, this is a guy who loves theatricality, who created ridiculous timekeeper puppets and gave them his own voice. Even if Jonathan Majors doesn't admit it, it definitely feels like he's pulling from the character of Bottom or Puck from In a Midsummer Night's Dream, and Midsummer Night's Dream ends with a play within a play. So Sylvie draws first blood in this duel, and Loki bleeds through his sleeve, which is where he's wearing his heart at this moment. He's come a long way, but Sylvie hasn't come quite far enough to trust him.
You want the throne.
I don't want a throne. I just want you to be okay.
And they kiss, and in the background, He Who Remains actually blinks away some tears. This, I believe, is the most important detail from the season 1 finale, because it shows why He Who Remains set Loki L1130 and Sylvie L1190 into motion. Since he can never trust his Renslayer, he needs a multiversal duo to show him how to put someone else before oneself, something that I think this Kang will never truly learn. Sylvie tricks Loki though. The tables have really been turned on him a lot lately, and she kicks him through a time door. Even as He Who Remains is about to be killed, he's still enjoying the show.
Incredible.
And she plunges the knife into He Who Remains, and he winks and says,
"See you soon."
Just like that decapitated timekeeper android said at the end of episode 4. Sylvie is so overcome by the weight of this moment, the culmination of everything she's been working towards, that she just has to sit on the floor. And as the camera pans up from He Who Remains, the sacred timeline splits behind him into more branches than we have ever seen before. And we cut back to the TVA as Mobius and B-15 watch the chrono monitor go crazy with branches overlapping, and you can see some of these regions glowing a bright red. Kevin Feige discussed the repercussions of this event and the larger MCU, and he said,
"You know, there's always a method to the madness, even of the multiverse, and for the Marvel.com fans who know that Loki and Sylvie did something at the end of that series that sort of allowed all of this to be possible. He Who Remains is gone, and that allowed a spell to go wrong in Spider-Man No Way Home, which leads to the entire multiverse going quite mad in this."
Yeah, that's just a studio head trying to get us to watch all these movies. Now, the TVA that Loki returns to is not the same one he left. Like, hunters are running around in a frenzy, fully activated, some headed to the armory. Loki finds Mobius and B-15 in the archives, and as we learn in Loki episode 1, that the ones in the archives talking about the 63 branches in this unit alone are not the ones we just saw in the chrono monitor bay. Those are in the present, these are in the past.
Does he want us to just let them all branch?
Well, at this point, how are we even going to stop it?
We can't!
And yes, again, we know that this is a past era of the TVA, but we don't know if the he they're referring to is He Who Remains, or Kang, or some other variant we have yet to meet. But they do call him he. They know that in their era, there's just one boss, not three. But neither of these two recognize Loki, or even knows his name, which, considering how many variants we know had to be pruned over the years by the TVA, is just kinda odd. Like, they should know of some Loki, and Loki realizes that something is off, and he looks up at a massive statue of some variant of Kang, whether it's He Who Remains or some other Kang, and we end with this ominous music playing over the credits. It's a perfect ending of someone who had this glorious purpose, who thought everyone knew his name. He was this famous, great, powerful Loki. Now he is just a face in the crowd, which is basically how Spider-Man No Way Home ended. Someone who was infamous being reduced to anonymity. Where do we go from here? Season 2 is the answer. We already broke down episode 1 of season 2. Thank you everyone for supporting it, and our breakdown of episode 2 is coming later tonight. Please subscribe to New Rockstars, subscribe to The Deep Dive, subscribe to The Break Room, and support us by grabbing some merch from nerdriot.shop. You can follow me at Erik Voss, follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.